Hi there, Dr. Carmen McGuinness back with you. On this channel, we talk about relationships of all sorts. And last week, we talked about the relationship between fathers and their daughters. This week, we're going to talk about the relationship between fathers and their sons, what is passed on to the child from his father. So while little girls, will look for men who are like dad, because that's what they're good at. That's what they learn to do during their childhood, is do dad really well. Little boys, on the other hand, will model themselves after their fathers, which in a perfect world is a perfect situation. However, unfortunately, this is also true whether or not they approve of their fathers. So even a little boy or a young man who has decided that dad is not maybe the best role model for him will still end up being like dad, or is highly likely to. What we try to avoid becomes something of a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's just kind of the way things work. This point can be very easily illustrated with what I call the lemon test. So right now, just trying not to think about a lemon. And you know what happened, right? Pucker is what happens. We feel it in our mouth. It's right there. The lemon is there. Whatever you try to put out of your mind is the thing that is in your mind, unfortunately. And it's called avoidance coping. So that little guy, even if he doesn't approve of dad, is going to end up being heavily influenced by dad as long as dad is in his life. So now we're going to talk about what dad might do in a perfect world. What would be the best case scenario? How to mold and influence that little guy. Supportive and small accomplishments rather than adult style wins is what dad should be pushing in his child. He should be supportive and he should be present and he should acknowledge those small childish wins and not strive so much for the big adult accomplishments that he might see in his child's future, but it's way too soon to have those sorts of expectations or to push those things on his child. Affectionate rather than a kind of an out with the boys way of dealing with your son is the best possible outcome for him as well. This is a bonding style that is more affectionate, much like he would treat his daughter. And recognizing that growth isn't just in size and in weight and in what grade your son is in, but it's also mental. This is very important. It's internal. It's in the body, in the mind. So resist the temptation to snuff out emotions. The men aren't emotional approach to this with your son. Emotion turned inward becomes resentment, self-blame, and if left unchecked, can turn into depression. Instead, you should honor your son's emotions. They are part of his reality. For example, a 5-year-old gets in a fight at school, and when his father picks him up from aftercare, the teacher reports the incident to the father, and the child blurts out, "I hate James." Let's say the other child's name is James. Instead of denying that reality, which is his reality right now, "Oh, no, you don't hate anyone." Let him explore his feelings instead. You can tell me all about what happened on the way home, and maybe you'll get it all out so that tomorrow you and James can be friends again. That's a entirely different way of handling it that acknowledges his feelings without saying, "Oh, yeah, I get it. I hate people sometimes." We don't want to do that, but we definitely want to avoid just telling him, "No, you don't hate anyone. That what you're feeling, it isn't so." And the same is true of cognition, problem solving. Boys have gut feelings, just like girls have women's intuition. Studies suggest that the most intelligent people use both logic and intuition when they problem solve. And it's when we, adults, ask why, and the child is forced to explain his sensibilities, that we tend to push away intuition. We extinguish that intuitive sensation and force them into thinking about a reason why, putting it into words. And eventually they'll forget. Children will forget how to be intuitive if we don't nurture that intuition, if we don't respect it. So there are some ideas as to how to deal with your son as opposed to some of the more common ways that dads tend to deal with their sons. What your son is going to get from you, what he's going to leave home with, leave childhood with, is a model of how he should act, how he should be, how he should think, how he should feel, and what's expected of him out in the big boy world. So in every interaction, it's important that fathers consider this when they treat their boys with, hopefully, affection and love. I hope this has been helpful. I also recommend the piece I did last week on the relationship between fathers and daughters. And I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday with my midweek sneak peek. Until then, have a wonderful week. See you soon.